Jeff, congratulations on a first draft. With KJ Simpson in particular, what stood out about his game? And I guess if you could talk a little bit about your interaction with him prior to the draft. You said you guys had a really good meeting, I think, in Chicago during the Combine.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Super excited about KJ. He's a guy that, we had targeted as a talent that should have won in the first round. And just talk about his intangibles. He's an ultimate competitor. He works, if not as harder than anyone, just as hard as anyone. He's an elite defender. He shoots the ball well. He gets others involved. So there's a lot to be excited with him. And then, yes, of course, we spent some time with him in Chicago. His characteristics are exactly what we want the Hornets to be about.
Go ahead, Scott.
Hi, Jeff. I wonder if you could just make overall comments about what you did today and yesterday, and what you like about what you did and what you still think you need. And can you also comment on this trade report?
Yeah, Scott, I'm very excited about what we did on whole. Our group, it was a true team effort. Had a ton of people in the front office and scouts and coaching staff, medical performance. We had some goals set out and really excited, of course, starting last night with getting Tijon, and then today, of course, with KJ. As I just said, his character is exactly what we want the Charlotte Hornets to be about, and I have no doubt that those two guys are going to maximize themselves. As far as the trade goes, I can't comment on that. What I will say is we will always be very strategic and opportunistic in terms of being able to collect assets and utilize our room this summer going into free agency as it relates to finding future Hornets as well.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Rod.
Hey, Jeff, just wondering, what is your vision for this roster? Like, how, aggressive will you be over the next few days to kind of change the roster and make it the way you want to going forward?
Yeah, Rod, it's, look, as you guys know, this time of year, it's always fluid. Just things happen all the time with trades and just different signings that maybe were not expected. So as I said before, we're going to be very strategic. My group and our group here is, we have a ton of different iterations and paths that we're prepared for. So I know we'll be able to capitalize at the right time in terms of how we will use that room, collecting additional assets and finding future Hornets.
Then obviously you guys have a big free agent with Miles Bridges. I'm just wondering, what can you say about that, and how did the new CBA rule allow you guys to kind of communicate and kind of negotiate, help, if at all, through this process as you kind of figure out what's going on with that?
Yeah, I think the new CBA rule is ultimately a positive. What I would say, Rod, is I don't want to get into any individual negotiations that I've had. I've made it very clear to Miles that we want him to remain as a Hornet.
Nick Carboni.
Hey, Jeff, there's a pretty clear theme when you talk about the two guys that you drafted over the last 24 hours, and it seems to be about effort. Defense is mentioned a lot. Is this draft a way for you guys to kind of set the tone of what you want the culture to be?
It is, Nick, and that's something that Charles and I specifically we're very excited about. We have incredible opportunity here to, again, as you said, tailor the roster to how we see, how we want the Charlotte Hornets to look like. And those two guys, you hit it on the head. That's why I'm so excited about it. They compete on a nightly basis. They're very unselfish. They play the right way. They're physical, and they love to defend. So all those things that, look, you can't control if you're making shots on a nightly basis. You can't control a lot of things, but you can control your effort and your work rate and your overall approach. And those two guys, they're very special in those categories.
James Plowright.
Hi, Jeff. James from Hornets on SI. Can you just talk a little bit about the remaining roster, kind of some weak areas that you're wanting to maybe address in the coming days and weeks here, things that you think the team need?
Yeah, thanks, James. As I said earlier, I think it's hard. This time of year, it's so fluid, right? Again, just unexpected trades, random signings. So I think we're going to look at it more as just, again, being very opportunistic and strategic with how we utilize our room. So, I think if you ask all teams right now, there's just going to be something that pops up that maybe you weren't expecting necessarily. So just we want to remain very flexible, and I'm excited about continuing to add assets and find future Hornets.
Steve Reed.
Hey Jeff, it seems like defense, certainly defensive skills was a priority heading into this draft. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think yes, we always love guys who take pride on that end of the floor. It's certainly not easy, but of course, I think some of the best teams, they're able to have success because they defend. Certainly, you saw that with Boston this year, and Charles is coming from that as well. Now, I also want to say these guys are pretty good offensively as well. T-John has a lot of upside. As I said last night, he can, he'll shoot the ball, he can rebound and push. He's a bit versatile on that end of the floor, and KJ's a very good offensive player as well. He, I think averaged around 20 points in the Pac-12 and shot above 40% from three. Took care of the ball, does a great job of getting his teammates involved. So it's certainly a positive that they can play offense, but I'm really, really excited that they, again, their approach on the defensive end is where we want it to be.
Sam Farber.
Hey, Jeff, congrats on wrapping up your first draft. Two questions. One, in terms of KJ, was this pick more in terms of fit or best on the board? How would you describe it? And then looking ahead to Summer League, this will be your first time filling out a roster. Are there any priorities or common traits that you're looking for players that will try and earn their way onto to the Hornets roster that route?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. With KJ, a little bit of both, really. Like, again, as I said, he was someone who we had pegged as a first-round talent. So we were thrilled that he was there when we were picking. So, but yeah, fit, we think he'll help out at that guard position as well. So, and in terms of Summer League, I think it's a great opportunity, one, just to, have, guys like KJ and T-John and Nick Smith, those guys will compete in Summer League, so it'd be great for Charles really and his staff to get their hands on them on a daily basis and see them in game action and just continue to further evaluate those guys.
Sam Hurley.
Jeff, I wanted to ask you just a quick follow-up on KJ. Just looking at his first 2 years at Colorado, it seemed like the three-point shot was a little bit of a struggle for him, and he talked about he really clamped down last summer to get it up to, and I think he jumped from 27% to 43%. What sticks out about his shot approach, and how much film did you watch from maybe the previous year at Colorado compared to this past year to see how much of a difference there was with maybe how he looked, how he was approaching shot selection? What would you kind of contribute to the improvement?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sam. What I attribute to it is just his work rate and his work ethic. Again, we had some long conversations about really how he was able to improve in those areas, and he essentially locked himself in the gym and just until he got very, very comfortable. I love his shot profile. I think guards who can make shots off the bounce are a little bit more dangerous, and he can do that. His level of confidence. I think he had just natural maturation in terms of probably his shot profile and distribution, taking a little bit better ones. So he had a pretty good sample size from the three-point land and, again, was able to obviously shoot it at a high clip this year.
We'll go to Jason Brown.
Jeff, thanks for taking the time. I think we all sort of take your point as far as things being fluid with the roster this time of year. But I for several years now, I've heard the term positionless basketball, and I'm just curious your philosophy when you're shaping this roster and looking at the depth of it. Are you just looking at positionless basketball, or do you identify positions that are maybe of need?
Yeah, I think it's more of how the roster complements one another, right? So, Yes, I think positionless basketball is a trendy, right, term, and yes, I think it can certainly apply. At the end of the day, we need guys on the floor who compete, who work, who are going to give the effort, who are going to defend, and then of course have some requisite of, skill in terms of passing, shooting. Of course, you want your bigs to rebound. So there's certainly different metrics that you want, those 5 players to hit on the floor, but a lot of it just comes down to how they complement one another when they're on the floor.
All right, guys, we got time for 3 more. We'll go to Rod and then Nick and then James. So go ahead, Rod.
Yeah, Jeff, to kind of follow up on Jason's question, with KJ being a point guard, you already have Trey Mann on the roster, and obviously with Melo, just what's your philosophy, I guess, in terms of stacking up, I guess, positions, guards? How do you feel about having maybe 3 or 4, whatever, at certain spots that could seem like it could be an overload in other people's minds, per se?
Yeah, look, I see it as a positive. You have no idea what's going to happen through the season in terms of just foul trouble or whatever it may be, right? So I think all 3 of those guys are very good. They're also different, right? LaMelo has a little bit more size than all of them. Of course, Trey can play on and off the ball. KJ is a little bit more ball dominant. So they, in some ways they complement one another. In some ways they're different. So I think I see that as a positive.
Go ahead, Nick.
Jeff, I know Rick and Gabe are basketball junkies, but what did they know about Tijan before, and how did you kind of guide him through that process, and just what was their involvement with you, everybody there for the first time in this draft?
Yeah, I think prior to me arriving, they certainly didn't see Tijan much, but when I got here to Charlotte, one of the first things I did actually was go to Europe when I had a little bit of a break to see Tijan. And as soon as I came back, I just told him, like, guy, we're gonna really zero in on this guy. He has the potential to be special. So, I think after I, of course, educated them on that, they were excited, and of course they were here with us and just full of support. They were a tremendous resource in terms of allowing the front office to continue to proceed and go through with the pick and things like that. So they're very excited.
Last one to James Plowright.
Jeff, you mentioned you've held interest in Tijan for quite a while. You took the NBA world a little bit, I think, by surprise with the pick yesterday. Are you happy in the modern day of leaks and rumors that was kind of able to be kept quiet until just maybe an hour or so before the draft?
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I think it's one of those things that, of course, everyone's looking for information. But look, I felt good about our process. It's never perfect; these things never are. But I think we did a pretty good job in terms of, like you said, keeping it quiet. And ultimately, going into the night, our highest goal was to select Tijan, and we got that accomplished.